Red meats, so our lamb, our beef, things like that. We're going to look for a lot of different things when it comes to these. Now you'll notice on our steak here, this is a bone-in ribeye steak. You'll notice that there's a lot of fat. Those great big chunks in there are what we call fat. Well, you'll also notice that there's lines going through the interior of the meat. Those are what we call marbling. That's what we like, and that is what gives us higher qualities of meat. See, the thing about red meat, and specifically beef, is that we pay for marbling. So there's different levels or different grades that beef falls under. So our prime beef, things that like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse would serve, would be basically a prime grade or a ton of marbling in it type of meat. The next step down would be a choice grade. Choice would be what restaurants and food service outlets use. And then we have select. Now select is most of the time what you're going to find in your grocery stores. So a lot of times when you get home or when you go to the store and you buy a steak and you go home and make it and it doesn't taste the same as a restaurant, a lot of it has to do with the grade of meat. It's because it's a lesser grade. It has nothing to do with how you cooked it, or maybe it does, but more with the grade of meat. So keep in mind that you want the marbling, you don't want a ton of fat, okay? That's on the steaks. Now on our roasts are a little bit different because you notice on our roasts here, we also have a lot of marbling. But the cuts come to matter in this section of things because a cut like this, a steak, a prime rib especially, is a very tender cut of meat. It comes from a part of the animal that isn't used as much as, say, a tougher cut of meat like our roasts are. The reason that that matters is if the muscle isn't used much, then it's very, very loose. Our tenderloin is a good example of that. The tenderloin's not used much, and so it's a very loose muscle, very tender when we eat it. Things like the rump roast and chuck roast and things that come from the legs of the animal actually are very, very tough because they're used a lot. So even though this has a lot of marbling in it, it'll be very good flavor-wise, but it may not be very good if we were to just grill it. It would probably be very tough. So keep these things in mind when you're cooking beef. Look for marbling and always ask your butcher what grade it is, because at the end of the day, that's what ultimately matters. Once again, when you're seasoning things, to enhance the flavors, salt and pepper. If you want to add additional flavors, you can do that, but salt and pepper and you'll taste the natural flavor of your beef, lamb, any red meat that you might be having, as well as anything else.